Hello and welcome back to my lair. I am once again joined by my talking crow familiar Mango, and I am once again your host, the Rambling Lich. And today we are going to talk about wizards and why you might want to be a wizard or train for it. Maybe you were just randomly recruited. Who knows? What's cool about wizards? That's kind of where we're at today.
In some contexts, overwhelming arcane damage, and in others, some of the most valuable utility skills in the context of whatever you're getting up to. The wizard really is quite versatile.
Yeah, that versatility is key. If the fighter is the pick your road and do what you will of the martial classes, the wizard is that for the casting classes. The only thing the wizard really isn't going to be good at is healing. You are not likely to be healing your party as the wizard. That said, you are very much likely to be sitting in the back line, throwing artillery, redirecting aggression, figuring out what damage types are going to harm whatever you're fighting the most. And if you're a very well prepared and thoughtful wizard, you will have it available to you. Unlike a lot of spellcasting classes, you are not limited to a certain number of spells known. You aren't limited to just what your deity allows you to have. If you find a spell on a scroll, you can learn it, as long as it is of the arcane tradition in Pathfinder or in D&D as well, because wizards are arcane casters. As long as that spell is on your spell list, you can learn it. So, what you are going to mostly be searching for is going to be more spells to increase your repertoire, your utility, just the amount of stuff you can try to do each day. If you have found 15 level 1 spells and you can prepare 3 slots, what of those 15 are you going to need that day? Do you need to be able to throw fire out of your hands? Do you need to be able to figure out where water is? It is a lot of choices, and picking the correct choices will make it feel almost like you're cheating. You almost start feeling like, well, I have the answer to this question. It is just a wave of my hands away. First benefit you're going to get as a wizard is access to cantrips. These are spells that you can just cast whenever, for any reason. Stuff like Firebolt to shoot a small blast of fire at someone. Stuff like Prestidigitation in order to, you stepped in some mud. You don't want mud on your shoes. Maybe you're like that. And so you just clean your shoes with magic like it's magic. It's lovely. And these are just options you have. You don't have to spend a resource outside of deciding it's what you're preparing for that day. Now, obviously, as you move up in higher tier spells, then you start having to spend spell slots, or you start having to try and offload some of that casting onto other options, wands, scrolls, staves, so on and so forth. But that is all part of being a wizard. Your most valuable trait is you have the Book of Answers, your spell book. First thing you should do as a wizard, get the money, get a second spell book. Keep an adventuring spell book. Keep a spell book at home. Keep a spell book hidden in some random place you are the only one who knows about. Because losing your spell book means all the time you've spent adventuring, gathering your spells, gathering everything is just gone. You need to take care of that book. It is your most important possession. So, as the wizard, your most important stat is your intelligence. Everything else is secondary. hard secondary. So outside of being smart, you can do whatever you really want with your wizard. If you want a wizard who, for whatever reason, lifts at the gym, you pump your primary intelligence stat all up as much as you can, pump your strength score, and you whack people with that stick you got like it ain't nothing. Works well if you're also deciding to change your form into, say, that of a bear, or into something even more exotic, such as a drake, so on and so forth. That kind of thing is very good for a wizard who has decided that the gym is not scary. Meanwhile, others who are much more backline focused, as the majority of your wizards will be, the wizard is not generally at home in the front of the combat. Average wizard stat layout might be something like high intelligence with a low strength score, followed by constitution and dexterity for any ranged attack rolls, or if he's holding a crossbow, in case he does run out of spells, especially at lower levels. Is there anything you would like to add?
Generally, in most contexts, the wizard won't exactly be resilient. With a low HP pool, you won't want to necessarily direct all of the attention to you in a given combat, so that you might continue to make use of your myriad skills and abilities.
And talking about skills, what outside of combat, you have a decent amount of them. You can generally have access to pretty much any knowledges. There is any and all reasons why a wizard might look into something even outside of their usual specialties. So you're gonna be the guy in the party who has the answer to pretty much anybody's question on, say, what is the troll's weakness? And the answer is fire and acid. But you, as the wizard, are gonna know that. You're also going to be the party's source of esoteric lore. Why might this particular house be haunted? And, well, you somehow, whenever you are looking at something in a library for this town, you found out that, well, maybe a bunch of goblins broke into this particular house and murdered the family. And they're understandably rather upset about that. You're obviously going to be very well studied in arcane lore. You're going to want to pick up a craft. So the ability to craft your own wands or scrolls or anything like that during your downtime can add to the number of spells per day that you can cast artificially. Just anything you can do to be able to cast more spells and be a little bit more versatile is right up your alley for things that you want. You're also going to be the one in the party, you and the cleric, are going to be the ones in the party most likely to understand how to break a ritual that somebody is preparing, or how to get rid of a curse, or how, again, just this weird thing might work, thanks to that intelligence stat and the knowledges that you can acquire.
Now, because you are privy to such a veritable Swiss Army knife of utility, other people might seek to take advantage of that. Some people may assume that you are simply divine sent and meant to bless their fortunes and can solve any problem you want with a wave of your hand because you have the magic. So you may run into people who wish to take advantage of you or otherwise employ you to expend some of your energy and time on petty nothings that they deem important enough to bother you.
Yes, selling your spellcasting services is always an option. It is one of the reasons why very few wizards end up poor. And many wizards end up in towers set off in somewhat difficult to reach locations, specifically for that reason. Because you really gotta want that sword enchanted if you're gonna wander 5-10 miles out of the city through the dangerous forest in order to go to the wizard tower, just on the off chance that he has one of his apprentices enchant your silly little sword. But let's move on to a few examples. First on our list, and a key example of the wizard who has insight to the lore of the world, would be Gandalf. For all of Gandalf's magical feats within the books of Lord of the Rings and other Middle-earth stories, his best uses have always been understanding the lore of Middle-earth, understanding, how to open up the gates into Mithrandir. Was it Mithrandir? Moria. How to open the gates to Moria. How to move his way through the councils with Elrond. How to, meet up with the Ents in Fangorn and speak with them. He is a wizard who has met many people, made many alliances, and many of those people and alliances have either befriended him, owe him favors, and he has spent much of that time just accumulating vast amounts of knowledges. So while, yes, his feats in summoning the eagles or during the battles of the 5 armies were great, I would argue his knowledge is what helped both the group that set off with Bilbo in order to go and take back the dwarves' homes in the mountains, as well as his help to the Fellowship, was his use of knowledge and how to turn that into advantages for the Fellowship.
Lore knowledge and diplomatic feats aside, Gandalf was never one to shy away from a fight when it was unavoidable, and serves as a quality example of a wizard who isn't exactly afraid to swing a sword when push comes to shove. He's casted a myriad of spells, but he's also known to lop off heads as needed.
But yes, and moving from a wizard who was definitely one to adventure on his own, to one who rarely leaves her study, the Sorceress Sullen, a teacher character from the Lands Between, who you first meet in Limgrave. She is one of your primary early sources for learning magic. Her college has a tradition of their mages wearing stone heads of important figures throughout the college's history, and she primarily teaches you glintstone sorcery. She is a primary example of the wizard teacher character. She would be one of the sources you go to learn new spells, either paid for or given as reward. However, she is also not entirely benign. She is one of the characters you go to for learning spells. However, she is not an entirely benign character. Throughout her quest line, you find that she has made at least one fairly extreme enemy.
Due to her insatiable desire to return the Raya Lucarian Academy to its foundations in studying the primal glintstone sorceries, she found herself exiled from the academy and imprisoned in Witchbane Ruins. Correct? Witchbane Ruins. From there, she makes contact with the player character and asks you to assist her with her various deeds, eventually going so far as to reveal one of the more extreme glintstone magics that exists and putting her life force into a crystal. After which, she is slain by the witch hunter Jaren, who is tasked with hunting down those who think and act as Selen does.
Ultimately, depending on your decisions, after you have defeated Renala and returned to the academy, you may encounter Sullen as either the option to aid her or Jaren. Should you choose to aid her, her seeking forbidden knowledges and sorceries will overwhelm her, and she will become a graven mass, a collection of mages all forming a collapsed star, showing that while the pursuit of power and knowledge is going to be a way to gain power, the end of that road may not be worth it. And speaking of the end of a road, that will bring us to our final mage, Freyren, an elf who is probably one of the strongest mages within her world. She represents a wandering mage who is kind of just happy to obtain new magic. For her, it doesn't matter if the magic that she has found is a simple spell that cleans her shoes, or if it is a spell that rains meteors from the sky. She is simply happy to find new magic as she wanders with successors of two of her former companions. She does have the issue of the long-lived, where she will often linger in locations far longer than necessary. For those of you who have any elf companions within your group, you will understand this, and how you must occasionally rush them along. But she is a curious type. However, outside of her curiosity, she is not naive. She has lived long enough and seen enough to know that when certain creatures appear, no matter how much they may try to deceive or put on faces, it does not matter. Her most famous approach of this is with demons. Demons are not to be trusted. They are not people. They are predators who have learned to talk. Anytime a demon is talking, it is trying to convince you to let it kill you, is her general view set, which she has been proven right over countless years. That's not to say she hasn't tried other approaches.
In Freyren's world, rather than spell slots, spellcasters pull from an internal reserve of mana, of which Freyren has quite a large quantity at her disposal. That being said, she is not infallible either, having lost 11 times to mages with less mana, and suffering from a problem that even beginner mages in that universe suffer from, which is her inability to detect mana while casting a spell. This shows that even the most experienced of wizards with some of the most powerful spell slots or high-level magics in their respective universe can be brought low by someone who has superior planning, timing, strength, and any other of a myriad of advantages.
So, concluding, that was several reasons why you should play a wizard. A couple examples of wizards in fiction. And ending on the real reason everyone wants to play the wizard, Fireball. When all else fails, when the utility is not enough, when you are faced down by just hordes of lower level enemies, or you want to soften up hordes of medium and higher level enemies, the wizard's primary offense becomes area of effect magic damage. Your fireballs, your lightning bolts. These are the other reason why you play the wizard. And I think that is where we will end off. And the next video should be on the tools of the wizard, where we go more over their spells and various items that a wizard will be searching for along their journey and would like to make use of. And goodbye.